Nope, I'm a citizen here in Avoca, Iowa. I actually grew up here, went to school here, went to college, came back, and I started teaching here in Avoca. So I taught first graders for 17 and a half years. And then when my dad retired from the State Farm Insurance Agency, then I took the opportunity to take over the insurance agency. So I've been here all my life. And anyway, my husband and I have 3 children. Our oldest daughter, Chantel, then we have a son, Nicholas, and then we have a younger daughter, Chandra. Our son, Nicholas, was born without a left hand, and I never really ever considered that a disability because he did not. He seemed like he was always able to do everything that any other child I ever knew could do. He was a fabulous piano player. He pitched baseball. He plays golf. He played football through college and professional football after college. So I never really considered him being disabled. But when he was I believe, in high school as a freshman, and he was always a good student. Our special ed teacher here in Avoca at that point was Judy Scheffler, and she called me up one day and she asked me to come down to the school. She wanted me to meet a woman named Mary McLaren. And she said, I think you and Nick might be interested to meet Mary McLaren. She works for Iowa Vocational Rehab Services out of Atlantic, and she might be able to offer some things for Nick that, maybe you should consider. So we made an appointment, met with Mary. She was very inviting, very knowledgeable, and I said, well, Nick, he's a good student, and it just seems like, we don't really need any services right now. It seems like he's doing fine. And she said, well, Judy Scheffler, the teacher here at the school, tells me that he gets along really well. There's no issues with him in any way. But, looking down the road, there might be some services that we might be able to provide. He sounds like he's college bound. Sounds like, there might be some services along the way that maybe we can help him with for employment down the road or things like that. And I thought, and I've always had the opinion, if there's anything that can help my kids, I'm definitely gonna look into it. And when Nick was a baby, we were approached by the Shriners here in Avoca. We have a very active Shriners community club, and they approached me, and they were wonderful all through Nick's childhood to provide prostheses for us and help us with that. And so anyway, I wanted to look and see. Well, I just said, like Mary said, well, let's just see what we can do, and if we never need to help him with anything, great, then we don't. But I want you to know that we're always here as a backup. Perfect. And so when he went to Wayne, he was able to receive some tuition, some help with some of his tuition, which was a godsend for our family and for him. And then when he when he became 21, he was no longer eligible for Shriner services for his prosthetics. They're very, very expensive, and when he turned 21, he didn't qualify for the Shriners program anymore. And our health insurance wasn't very cooperative at that point. Then we were also very fortunate that Iowa Vocational Rehab stepped in. Then we started working with Ellen and Nancy, and they've just been fabulous. They've come here they've stayed on top of having our annual meetings with Nick and stayed on top of everything. They were very instrumental in helping, making sure that he did get the help he needed for his last prosthesis, and that was awesome because they are, I think, about $6,000 to $8,000 if you don't have help. So that was wonderful. Since then, like I said, he wanted to go on and get his master's, and Ellen and Nancy encouraged him to do that because that would help him, stand out in the business field. And so then I was needing a secretary at the time. My longtime secretary had retired. So it was great. He could come live at home with us, save money that way, do his master's degree at Bellevue University in Omaha, and take his classes, work here, and Iowa Vocational Rehab was very helpful with tuition and and that kind of thing then too. Taking the GMAT, that was kind of a struggle for him to get through all that process, and Ellen and Nancy were very helpful through that process too. So we're very thankful for all the help from Iowa Vocational Rehab for Nick. So now he has completed his master's, and he found out he likes the insurance business. Didn't know if he would, and he decided he liked it, so he stayed, and he's one of my full-time employees. So that's kind of my son's story. Nick, we've had fabulous experiences with Iowa Vocational Rehab. Then our youngest daughter, Chandra, she's 5 years younger than Nick, and when she was very young, I had seen a documentary on 2020 about lead poisoning, and we live in an old house. We've done a lot of extensive remodeling, and I had taken the kids in for their pediatric appointments, and I had asked the pediatrician, I said, I just seen something on a documentary on this lead poisoning, and I said, I just feel like I'd like to have my kids to have the test done. 2 days later, he called me up and he said, there's something terribly wrong. These lead levels came out extremely high. I've never seen levels like this. Something's wrong. I want you to bring her back tomorrow. I want to redo these tests. We redid them, and no, it was the same result. So we knew she had high lead levels, and so I panicked. I'm getting my hands on every kind of brochure and everything I could find on lead poisoning, and I find out about all these speech delays and all these learning delays and all these other things, and of course I'm worried sick. So having other children and having been around a lot of children, being a teacher, I know, what to kind of be looking for and what I need to be watching for her and her development. And she was always very active, but she did not talk. Getting closer to 2 and she's still not speaking. And she was so hyperactive and just so different than the other 2 kids. And anyway, being in education, I knew that there were services out there for speech delay and that kind of thing in early childhood. So I got a hold of our special ed teacher in the elementary building that I was working with at the time, and asked her about, and the preschool teacher at the time, the handicapped preschool program, and asked about how to get Chandra into our area at the time. It's called Green Hills now. It was Area 13 then. How I could get her involved in that because I wanted some speech services for her. So anyway, we had people come to the house a couple times a week, and we all worked with her on speech. And then when she was 3, we got her into the handicapped preschool program at 3, and she went there for 3 years, and then I didn't start her in school until she was 6. She learned to talk. She talks a lot now, but she was always developmentally behind in schoolwork and just a lot of things, socially, and a lot of things like that. So she was on an IEP then, of course, we got her through, because of being in a handicapped preschool, then she was automatically on an IEP, so we had that all the way through. And then when she got a little bit older, we're working with Ellen. I talked to Ellen, and I was talking to her about our youngest daughter, Chandra, and I said, I just have a lot of I have all these hopes and dreams. My husband and I have all these hopes and dreams for our kids. We want them to go to college. We want them to do more things, and I'm so worried about her, and what is she going to be able to do? And Ellen said, have no fears. We're going to help. We're going to, we'll work with her. We'll do some testing, and we'll see what, we'll just do some things with her. And it was a godsend. We had several different tests run on her through people that Ellen and Nancy had recommended, so that was great. She went to Iowa Western, and through an aptitude test that Ellen and Nancy had recommended, we discovered that probably an early childhood program would be something that might be kind of interesting to her, and it would be fitting for her, maybe something she could find some success in. So she started out at Iowa Western, and she also, through Iowa Vocational Rehab and the services through that, then that helped her qualify for some student services at Iowa Western. And so that was wonderful, because she's the kind of kid, she's very cooperative, and she wants to succeed too. Just that everything is so hard for her. Everything's a real struggle for her. Would go to the student services area, and she had to put in, there was a requirement of so many hours every week. She had to come there prepared with what she was supposed to come there and study. They weren't going to do the work for her, but they were there to help her if she needed the help. And, you know, they monitored, made sure she was going to her classes, which that was never a problem with her. She always went to her classes. She always got her work done. But these student services kind of followed up with her a little bit more than a normal kid going to college would get she got a little extra help, and that made all the difference for her. You know, it was just a great working relationship, and she made some close contacts there that I think made her feel good about being over at Iowa Western and being successful. And it took 3 years to get that associate's degree over at Iowa Western. She was there for 3 years. But by golly, she got it. She did it. So we were proud of her. And then she said, I think I want to go on. She graduated in May after 3 years of Peru with a psychology degree. And she graduated on the dean's list. And her last semester, she was taking 5 psychology classes. They were not any easy electives. It was 5 psychology classes. For her biggest project that she had to do, one of her final projects that she had to do for one of her psychology classes, she did a presentation on the effects of lead poisoning on children. And she had to do a PowerPoint and give a speech and write a paper. And she did all that. We cannot believe this is our child that has been struggling her whole life, and here she is going to graduate with a psychology degree. Since she's been 16, she's worked up at the nursing home as a CNA, and she's worked there over Christmas breaks, spring breaks, fall breaks, weekends when she's home. She didn't come home every weekend from Iowa Western or every weekend from Peru, but she came home several times, probably at least one weekend a month to keep her name on the payroll there. So she kept her nose in on that. So anyway, that was always a wonderful experience. So now she graduates with this bachelor's in psychology. Well, what are you going to do with psychology? And she said, well, I'm either going to do something in the nursing home with psychology, or I'm going to still try to do something with children, because those are her 2 passions. Those are people that she relates to well. So there was a Head Start position or Head Start advertisement in the Harlem paper, and she saw it and she applied and interviewed, and she's now employed since July 8th at the Head Start in Council Bluffs, and she's one of the teachers for the 2-year-olds. And she still works as a CNA part-time on weekends at the Voca Nursing Home. So that's what she's doing. So those are my experiences. And I can't thank Iowa Vocational Rehab enough.